What is up, guys? The fall 2024 anime season is well underway. We have upwards of 60 anime titles all fighting for your attention, but don't worry, it's okay. I'm here for you. I have went through nearly every single anime title, watched 2 to 4 episodes of every single show in order to give you the cream of the crop, the picks of the pick, 10 new anime titles you shouldn't miss. As well as I'll get in some honorable mentions and talk about the Returner series as well. We have everything from Freya's thighs are saving lives, Yukikaze is still thirsty as Uzumaki is utilizing PlayStation 1 animation tech. My little sister is so adorable when strategizing an economic collapse of a foreign country. She's an old granny, by the way. Deku grew up and is now making magical girl outfits for a startup company. Subaru Catch. Got milk? Hina Best Girl, fight me. She sold her kidney to get back at him. Yeah, I don't know why she did that. It's always the perfect ones that are completely unhinged. I mean, this chick is bat crazy. Kendra Suda can pluck my fingernails any day. Hey, eyes up here. Opai Oki, Opai Chisai, Opai Oki, Opai Chisai. Tsumasho triggers tourists while making fans cry their eyes out. That time I accidentally hired your forger. The Ranma remake features Ranma, cursed, nipless, subjugating Gyaru in another world, gushing over magical girls, PG-13 edition, and so much more. So, without further ado, let's dive into 10 anime titles you shouldn't miss, in no particular order. First things first, let's talk about Blue Box, the big hit romance series that is absolutely taking at least Japan by storm. I'm not sure exactly yet how well it's doing in the West, but it seems like it's doing very, very well. If you want to give it anything, despite the fact if you like romance or not, this show looks absolutely gorgeous. It is just so well directed, visually very pleasing, some little sprinkle of cringy CGI here or there, but not really much use of it. This show just overall looks really, really good. Now, when it comes to the writing itself, I think so far the romance is doing really, really well. I really do like the characters, their personalities. The chemistry is just really, really pulling it off. If you wanted to pull one negative out of me, I just don't really like the main character. I feel his writing is very, very shallow. It seems like all he ever thinks about is the girl that he has a crush on, which is fine. When you have a crush, you do think about the girl a lot. But this guy literally thinks about nothing but Chinatsu, his senpai. And that's his big major problem. For those who don't know what the series is about, it opens up with Taiki, and he is a badminton player. He one day goes to go training at his school, and he ends up spotting Chinatsu, who is a basketball player. She just failed her tryouts, and despite that, even when she was in tears, she kept training. She kept pushing herself. And this has sort of inspired him, while at the same time, yes, making him really, really doki doki. So he goes there every single morning in order to train, while also spotting Chinatsu. There is kind of an inspiration inspiring the other person as well, as one day Taiki actually mentioned the fact that he's seen her train despite failing her tryouts, and this inspires her to not move. Her family was planning on moving, she was going to have to transfer out, but she decided to tell her parents, I want to stay there. And it so happens, the one place she decides to stay is at her mother's friend's house, which happens to be Taiki's mother's house. So yes, now they're living together. So far, everything's kind of working out. Like I said, it does have that romance in there, but additionally, kind of this sprinkle of inspiration and people pushing each other harder in order to keep up. Taiki, not being that great of a badminton player, is kind of pushing himself in order to be able to stand side by side with Chinatsu. And yes, the biggest problem the series has that Hina, best girl, is obviously going to lose. We'll see. What list for Anju would not be complete without an ecchi harem show? Yes, I like my sprinkle of ecchi harem every now and then, and definitely tying the knot with the Amagami sisters definitely fits that bill. We have a guy who's trying to get into college, and thankfully he found a place to stay, which is at this shrine. The only catch is that in order for him to stay there, he has to marry one of the Amagami sisters, which are the 3 daughters of the actual shrine itself. Only problem is that nobody knew about this until he got there, and the sisters aren't okay with it. He's not okay with it, but they're just gonna have to figure it out. So far, this series has been pretty solid. It's got a little bit of sprinkle of ecchi in there. It's not trying too hard. You'll probably get one moment every single episode that's kind of, pushing that envelope a little bit there. For the most part, it's more in the chemistry of the characters and the overall story that I've actually been enjoying. I do like the main character. It seems like he has a driving force, which is his desire to get into college. He has a dream and a lot of things behind him that are sort of pushing him. A lot of tragedies that are kind of fueling it. Additionally, each of the girls are pretty solid. We have the best girl, obviously, Asahi, which is the little sister type character. She's very mischievous. I really like her character. If you watched Worshidere the previous season, she's very much like Yuki. She's a little mischievous, little gremlin, and she's a lot of fun. We have the middle sister, Yuna. She's very hardworking. She kind of takes her role at the shrine a little bit too seriously to the point where she kind of overworks herself. She's very driven and very hardworking. And then you have the big sister who's very kind of doting and doesn't have anything in her life together. She's very sloppy, very messy. She likes to make it appearance like she's got it all together, but she doesn't. It's got a great setup so far. The characters are great. The chemistry is solid. And I've heard a lot of good things about the story going forward, so I'm looking forward to more. Next we have, yes, it's gotta be here, Dandadan. Yes, Dandadan, the show about bananas. I've still yet to figure out what the banana thing is. Everybody really badly wants people's bananas, but we've established already that it's not that banana. It's something else. I don't know. It seems like everybody has banana, male or female. So what's the banana? I don't know. It's driving me crazy. Anyways, Dandadan. Yes, this show being done by Science Sato is absolutely fantastic. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. What's great is it's one of those shows where I came in a little bit cautious because I'm not a huge fan of Science Sato. I've been kind of mixed on enjoying or not enjoying their shows. But overall, I knew based on sort of what the material was for this actual adaptation that it was going to be kind of bonkers and kind of unfiltered and kind of crazy. And I think that Science Sato was going to be a good fit for it. The PVs looked good and everything. Jumping into the show, though, the biggest surprise for me was, yes, one, that they're not censoring anything. It's just being as crude as the manga was. But at the same time, the characters. That was the thing that really got me while I was watching the show is I really like the characters. I think Ayase and Okuron are just so good together. The chemistry between the two of them is just, it's on the levels of something like Liquid Coil. I loved Liquid Coil because of the main two characters, their relationship, their chemistry, their interactions. This one's kind of doing the same thing. I just love the two of these brats. They're just constantly just at each other's throats, but at the same time, also forming a bond with each other. They're relying on each other. Okuron has had no experience with friends. He's been looking for friends. And then finally he has this chance to be a friend with Ayase, and he doesn't want to break that friendship, what he's sort of kind of established with her. At the same time, Ayase she's badass. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Ayase is badass. I love this girl. It just kicks so much butt. I love her psychic powers and all that kind of stuff that she unlocks. And just the two of them together, the way they kind of work together as a team whenever they fight is just super good. And yes, they're kind of just learning it, so they suck at the same time. So it's been great. The comedy's been great. And again, it's got this kind of crudeness to it. Like it's not afraid of just kind of getting a little dirty for the sake of reality. Like having literally this turbo granny that's a yokai thing that has stolen Okuron's wiener, and now they have to go beat up the granny because they got to get his wiener back, and now he has to use the restroom, and you kind of wonder how he used the restroom, and they're hanging out with each other, and then we meet the grandma of Ayase, and she's apparently a grandma, but she looks like she's like 30, and she kicks total butt. I just love it all. Their chemistry, the comedy, everything's on point for this, and yes, it looks really, really, really good. So everything is full cylinders for this show to be absolutely phenomenal. So cannot wait for each episode. It's been so much fun to watch it. Definitely check it out. Next, we have kind of a surprise for me, and I really wasn't sure that I was going to like this as much as I have, and that's Loner Life in Another World. Bear with me here. I know, it's an isekai. Hold on. Come back here. Get over here. There's probably so many people that are like isekai fans that are like, I don't care. Yes, Loner Life in Another World. This one is actually a huge surprise for me. It opens up with this guy that gets transported to another world with his entire class. The unfortunate thing is that he was trying not to get teleported. He's actually running away from the teleport circle. So he's the last person to go. And it's like first serve, first come basis for all the skills. And so he gets like all the worst skills. But yes, as per usual with isekais, they actually end up being things that you can use in a way that makes them OP. But either way, all the classmates are kind of doing their own thing. They're making groups. They're having fallouts and everything. At the same time, our main character, Haruka, he just wants to be a loner. He wants to be away from everybody else. And so he's like building a mansion and everything over here. Eventually he has run-ins with the classmates later on, ends up helping them out. But what I've liked about this series so far is that it's just kind of done things differently. I like the idea that this guy doesn't want to have anything to do with anybody. And yet still when he does interact with them, he's a cool guy. He's a likable main character while at the same time just getting into absolute shenanigans whenever he does interact with them. Like, the part that I liked the most was when the Gyarus show up and they're trying to find the nerds. And yes, they want him to help. Well, when they ask him to help them, he finally agrees, but this activates one of the passive skills he has, which is subjugate. And so all the Gyarus are now subjugated under him and are following him around like puppies. It's just totally bonkers, and I loved it for that. But It's been good so far. I've actually been enjoying it. It's just been a good little ride there. It's not like anything crazy, but much better than I expected. And plus, it looks decent. All right, we got to talk about Tsumasho. Yes, the show that triggered the internet the moment the first trailer dropped for it. But easily one of my favorite shows of this season. There's probably only one show that will probably dethrone it from number one of the best of the season so far, of the new shows anyways. But yes, Tsumasho, or the title that Crunchyroll did not want to use, If My Wife Became an Elementary School Student. Again, I understand why they didn't use that title, but anyways, what is this show about? It's essentially about a guy who meets a woman and they fall in love, they get married, they have a child, they're growing up together, everybody's happy, and then one day, unfortunately, out of nowhere, instantly, the wife is killed. The husband and the daughter are both having problems moving on with their lives. Well, one day, an elementary school student shows up at their door, says, "Hey, I'm home. What are you talking about? This is not your home. I'm sorry, kid. No, I'm your wife. I'm back." What sort of comes from this is that it's the wife, yes, that when she got into elementary school, one day she walked by their house and then all of her memories came back. She just wanted to pop in there very quickly and tell them, shape up, wake up, move on with your lives, and then, leave them be. Because she now is reborn in this world, she has her own life. She has her own family, and so she has to go back to them. She doesn't actually plan on staying there. But what sort of happens is that through their interactions, they essentially bring their family back together. They get to enjoy all the things they didn't get to do because, unfortunately, her life was cut short. There's several things that really work for this series. One is the idea of loss, the idea of regrets, the ideas of all the things that you wanted to do with somebody, and then, unfortunately, it being taken away from you. There's nothing that hurts more than the loss of a loved one, and this series definitely nails that. But not only that, but really getting into the difficulties that they're going to be facing because, yes, she is an elementary school student. She is the daughter of a different family now. And really those things that, while they want to be together again and want to share their time together again, they can't because society itself is just not going to allow it to happen. It's not so much about the idea of this grown-up guy being with an elementary school student. That's really not even in the picture. They establish it very quickly. We cannot be seen together. But it's really more in the desire to reestablish that familial bond they had once before, again, now with this new life. The way that it respects a lot of these topics and gets into so many things is just what really makes it great for me, and I just cannot wait for more of it. Speaking of loss and regrets and all that kind of stuff, the next one we have is Negative Positive Angler. This series is pretty darn good so far. The series follows a guy who is down on his luck. He is in a massive amount of debt. He's made a lot of really terrible decisions in his life, and at this point, he's pretty much given up on living. And even make matters worse, his doctor gives him a diagnosis that he has a tumor and he's not going to live but for another 2 more years. All this stuff kind of bearing down upon him, and then suddenly out of nowhere, the debt collectors show up and they're going to make his life miserable to the very end. Well, thankfully, he's picked up by a group that fish as a hobby, and they take him in very quickly. And what sort of follows this, you have this guy that's trying to pretty much give up on life. He's finding no purpose in life anymore. He can't get out of debt. He's being chased by debt. The weight of all of his bad decisions in his past and his bad luck is kind of just compounding upon him. At the same time, sort of discovering a new life, trying to find that reset point where he can try new things and see if he can find joy in his life. And I think so far the series has really been pulling this off. I think you have a really great cast of characters here, each with their own reason for doing fishing, each with their own perspectives on life itself. And I'm hoping that it actually does something good with this and it doesn't just turn into, I don't know, some sort of fake out death scenario. It's got great visuals. The music is just absolutely fantastic, just really sets the mood for this series. And I'm hoping that in the end, as an original series, it has a really good story to tell. I think that's the thing that kind of has me most excited for it, is just to have an original story that nobody knows what the end of it is. My next one I have is Let This Grieving Soul Retire. Yes, the thigh show. The thigh show. The Tino show, as I would call it. Yes, Let This Grieving Soul Retire. This is a series that is another one that I didn't think I was actually going to enjoy. It's really kind of low on a lot of the lists, and it didn't seem like it was going to be doing much new that you typically get from a lot of these fantasy series these days, but so far I have been really liking it, and yes, no joke, it's really because of one single character. But no, it follows Cry, and he used to be a part of a party back when he was very young that was all of his childhood friends, and they were all really powerful, but the problem is that Cry wasn't. And so he decided that because he was kind of holding them back, he was going to lead the party. Well, and that's when he ends up getting roped into being their actual leader of their group, and eventually the leader of their clan. And this kind of jumps forward to the point where he is heading one of the most renowned groups and clans of the entire area. Well, this sucks for Cry because, again, he's talentless and he really doesn't want the responsibilities of actually running a clan. But everybody around him sees him as incredible, just like his party was. So it kind of turns into this whole thing where he's constantly getting roped into things. He finds it very troublesome, but at the same time, he's just kind of faking it to make it. People show up at the task, think that he's so incredible, he'll be able to pull it off, and he just kind of wings it, and hopefully it kind of turns out. But he does have one thing going for him, and it's the fact that since he has so much money from heading this clan, he's a massive relic otaku. So if it's a relic, he probably owns it. He has a massive storehouse full of relics, and they're all extremely powerful, and that's the way he kind of gets through really bad situations. But like I said before, the show would be nothing without Tino, which is this girl that is absolutely obsessed with him, and yes, has incredible thighs, and yes, kicks absolute butt. The chemistry between Cry and Tino really makes the show because you have Cry, who is somebody that just doesn't want to get involved with anything and just thinks everything's troublesome, whilst Tino just wants to handle everything for him. She literally sees him as a god. Any decision that he makes is obviously flawless. He thought it all the way through. It's all according to his keikaku. And so, yes, that is kind of troublesome when he makes really dumb decisions and she follows it as if it's the gospel. But she's absolutely great. She's super yandere. She just wants nobody else around him. And she's a total goofball and very flirtatious. I absolutely love her personality. So, yes, if you see a lot of the pictures of her, if you've seen some clips of her, and you think she's great, watch the show. Otherwise, you might enjoy it. Next, let me tell you about a show you probably have never heard of, unless you watch my content, and you'll be like, oh, he's talking about that show again. But no. Puniru is a kawaii slime. This series is a mixed bag, but I'm liking it so far. Puniru is a kawaii slime, opens up with Kotaro, who is really young, and he's making some slime while watching a kids' network show. And he unfortunately drops his picture that he drew and a bunch of other ingredients on top of the mixture to make the slime, and it turns into an actual living slime, which he calls Puniru. Jump forward, he's gotten older, and yes, Puniru has gotten older, and he's getting upset because she's still trying to sleep in his bed with him, despite the fact that her body's changing in two, and so he's kind of embarrassed to sleep with her, and she also slimes the bed all the time. But yes, Kotaro doesn't like his slime anymore. He wants to grow up. He's grown up. He doesn't want to play with slime anymore, and he wants to get away from her because she's so annoying. But unfortunately, she's not going to let that happen. She wants him to call her cute and follows him everywhere. And Kotaro's only way of getting away from everything is going to school, but unfortunately, at school, there's a bunch of crazy people there too. He has his two classmates that are obsessed with idols, and they end up falling in love with Puniru because she can transform into things, and so she transforms into an idol, and even lets them touch her slime boobs. We have the perfect Kirara Hime, which is like the school princess, but unfortunately she's like obsessed with little kids, and so whenever she sees little kids, she turns into like massive mommy mode and decides to super dote on them until they panic and run away crying. And we have the guy that's like the playboy, but in actuality he's just like a super kid inside. It's all like this mixture of different characters that all come together just to create shenanigans. And in so far, like I said before, it's working out really decent. I will admit this show kind of does get stuck in certain jokes, but I have found that every single episode I'll have at least one moment that has me literally laughing out loud, like from the gut laughing out loud. In the first episode, it was literally her chopping off her boobs so that the guys can touch them. The second episode, it's Kirara, where she goes absolutely crazy on Puniru when she's in her little kid form. It's stuff like that that just out of nowhere, it gets totally bonkers, and I can't help but laugh. But yes, of course, as usual, comedy subjective, and your mileage may vary, so definitely give it a shot, though. It's been a big surprise for me, and I've really been enjoying it. For our next one, easily, if the season stopped right now, like if suddenly out of nowhere anime just died and we're like, yep, that's it, that's fall, this would easily be the number one new show of the season. It would be number 2 right under ReZero for the returners, but easily number 1 for the new shows, and that is Orb on the Movements of the Earth. This show is absolutely incredible. Like, everything about this show so far is perfection. It's fantastic storytelling, fantastic directing. Madhouse is doing a phenomenal job on it. It's got great music. It's got a great setting. The storytelling, everything is absolutely top notch for it. It essentially follows Raphael, and he's a boy who is trying to get through life as easily and comfortable as possible. He believes that everybody around him is idiots, They all make really dumb decisions, but he's really smart. He used to be an orphan, but he was taken in by this professor, and he was raised, and he decided to focus on studying, get a really good placement in society, go into theology, because obviously at the time, the church runs everything, so getting into theology is the best way to have a comfortable life. But he has one problem. He likes the stars. He likes astronomy. Even still, for the sake of his life, he's going to give it up eventually, but he just can't help but love the stars. Well, one day he's sent by his father to go pick up Hubert, and Hubert was actually caught by the Inquisitors and was branded a heretic until he actually confessed and turned away from it. Well, it turns out Hubert hasn't turned away from what he was actually doing. He was studying the concept that the Earth itself is not the center of the universe, that the Earth itself actually orbits the sun and rotates. And this is a concept that Raphael, despite the fact that he wants to deny it, yes, one, for the sake of actually not getting burned at the stake, but upon pondering it, he actually acknowledges that it's actually a concept that might actually be true. And this leads him down this path where on one end, he so badly wants to seek out this knowledge, seek out this truth, but at the same time, he has to avoid, yes, Inquisitors and getting burnt at the stake, being branded a heretic. What this show does so good, like I said before, besides being absolutely incredibly rote and just having these amazing directing work done for it, is it just absolutely nails the concept of a scholar, seeking truth, seeking out knowledge, and that thirst for it, that beauty that comes from actually achieving what is unknown. It's doing it so perfectly well. The first 3 episodes were absolutely phenomenal, and I'm super excited to see where it goes from here, and really excited the fact that it's actually getting 2 cores. If you have not checked out Orb, please go watch it. If it keeps at this pace, if it keeps at this quality, this can go down as one of the best anime of all time. And finally, the last show that I want to talk to you guys about is Magilumiere Magical Girls Inc. This show is an absolute surprise for me. I really wasn't expecting much from this show, but upon watching it, I was really charmed by it. This is kind of one of those shows that just has a thing about it, just has a charm about the characters that I just can't really put into words. It opens up with Kana, and she is trying to find work, but unfortunately, she's not having much luck. The one thing that she's really good at is remembering things. She'll pore over books, she'll study things, she'll study the companies that she's trying out for, but she herself, her personality, just not really working for a lot of these companies. Well, one day, she's actually at an interview, and yes, a monster attacks. In this world, we have monsters, and we have companies that actually dispatch magical girls. But when the magical girl arrives to fight this monster, she can't do it alone. It's had too much time to grow, and she needs a partner to take it down. Thankfully, the magical girl has a strategy to pull this off, but she needs somebody to help her by reloading her software once she uses all of her ammunition. Well, Kana decides to say, well, I'll help you out. Well, it turns out that Kana actually applied for the company that made the software, so she actually knows her way around the software really well. They end up taking down the monsters and, ends up getting recruited into the company where this magical girl came from. The only thing is, it's a startup magical girl company, so they don't have much equipment, they don't have a really good staff, they're not really high-tech like all the other magical companies. They're just kind of winging it. But that kind of comes with its own charm because, yes, this company finds itself to innovate and try new things, which always turns out to be kind of fun. Going into the following episode, yes, it really does get into Kana trying to kind of fit into the company itself. She has to learn how to use their brooms they use to fly around. She pores through all the manuals to figure out how to use it. And yes, ends up kind of utilizing some of the more interesting techniques the broom actually uses that nobody else in the company knew because nobody reads their manuals. But since she's like a bookworm that memorizes everything, she's really good at kind of recalling a lot of the information in the books and utilizing that in combat. At the same time, the other magical girl at the company, she's just kind of a really nice kind of senpai character for her. She's very much so a natural at being a magical girl, and she's just got a heart of gold. Overall, it's a nice little kind of refreshing take on the magical girl. Instead of your typical, yes, the familiar comes and, selects the girl and the girl transforms and she fights the bad guys and then goes back to home. This is a company. So these people actually have to go to work. People call for help. They kind of issue them that work. They come out there. They help them out with it, all while being kind of scrutinized with the higher ups. It's really fun. Like even the idea of making their uniforms. You have like a programmer that literally has to program the outfit itself. And they all sit around excited for the first time that Kana transforms. It just does all that stuff really well. Kana has been super cute so far. She kind of reminds me of the main character of New Game, if you guys watch that. It's just got a charm to it. It's just got a nice little charm to it that I really enjoy. So I cannot wait for more of it. And that is it. That is my 10 anime that you shouldn't miss of the fall 2024 anime season so far. For my honorable mentions, Nina the Starry Bride has been really solid so far. It's basically about a girl who's an orphan. She ends up getting picked up by this prince to replace the current princess who was found dead. And it just kind of goes in this whole thing of this kind of street rat having to kind of be forced to act like this princess who is lost. It does have that twinge of that overbearing male character that I don't really like, but it's been really solid so far. 365 Days to the Wedding, that has been a lot better than I was expecting it would be. I think what I like so much about it is that it's about two people that are kind of introverts that are faking to be married in order to avoid getting transferred by their company to another country. But I like that aspect of these two people that just don't interact with people much and they have their own problems, kind of being forced to interact with somebody by just making up this marriage. I think it's really sweet so far. Mecha Ude has been pretty solid so far. It has Sawano Hiroyuki music, so it's going to be enjoyable just for that alone, but it's been a really solid action series so far. I'm just not really sold on the overall story at this point. All Guy Mixer has been a lot of fun, and I really wasn't expecting much from that show. It's just been kind of goofy. This idea of, yes, these guys going to a mixer to find that there's all guys there, but they're actually cross-dressing girls. And they're a part of this one cafe where they dress up as boys, and it's just pure shenanigans unfolds. There's a lot of the characters in the series so far that I really, really like. I'll Become a Villainess, that'll go down in history. That's been pretty solid so far. Yes, it's doing the whole villainous thing again, but it's doing it in a way that it's kind of comical in the idea that she wants to be the most grandiose villain ever, but everything that she does just impresses people and makes people like her more. So she's not really pushing people away. She's just making people like her because she's so incredible. Its only problem really is that Maho Films likes to butcher adaptations, and this is their next victim, I guess. Obviously, fall is absolutely packed with some really, really incredible returners. I mean, we have ReZero's come back, and it has already been taking off. It had an hour-and-a-half long premiere. It was absolutely incredible, and it's still absolutely hitting. Natsume's Book of Friends came back with its 7th season, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that as well. Having the gang back, seeing Nyanko Sensei again, and just having these really heartwarming stories. Danmachi, of course, has come back with its 5th season, and that's been actually very enjoyable, despite the fact that most of it's been focused on having a date with Seer. It's been great, though. Bleach is returning with more crazy fighting going on there. We're going straight to the top of the top with that whole story. Dragon Ball Daima's here, and I really want to talk about it, but unfortunately, I'm too afraid of getting copyright strikes. Ranma 1/2 has been really fantastic, despite the fact that, yes, they're nipless at now, but at least they're showing a lot more than Urusei Yatsura, and I really love Ranma, and it's absolutely nailing the style. Anyhow, that's it. That's my top 10 anime that you shouldn't miss from the fall 2024 anime season. I hope you guys found this video informative. If you did, make sure to hit that like button before you leave. Leave me a comment. Let me know what shows that you are liking the most of the season so far. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. I'll be doing a tier list of all the shows here soon, doing a live stream of that as well. Additionally, if you want more information about any of these shows, I'll be doing first impressions of all the shows, so definitely stay tuned for that. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate what it does. Until next time, y'all take care.